today. Obviously, it's an exciting time of year. I do want to touch on a couple things before we get to talking about football. Congratulations to D'Angelo Hall and his fantastic career. I know he announced his retirement. I've been around him a little bit. I look forward to opportunities to be around him a little more, but he's done a fantastic job, not just as a player, but as a great ambassador to Virginia Tech, and want to make sure he knows that he's welcome back here anytime. And I look forward to having a chance or a little more time to visit with him here in the future. Also, nice news that Coach Beamer will join us as honorary captain for the Florida State game. Got to spend a little time with him the other day. He looked a lot better than I do. He looked like well rested and ready for the season. But I'm sure every coach says this, but it was a particularly big emphasis for us heading into this summer. I thought it was incredibly important, considering some of the lack of experience that we had, that we have a great summer. I think Ben Hilgart and his staff deserve a tremendous amount of credit, and our kids deserve a tremendous amount of credit, because I think we made big gains from a physical standpoint, from a mental and emotional and team standpoint. So I'm excited to see him on the field here in a couple days. We will report on Saturday and then practice on Sunday, go through that same 5-day period that we go through every single year in terms of getting guys ready to go. We've got Ty Nix fully in the fold now, along with Mark Dethorne, a Virginia Tech graduate who's running our recruiting. Excited to have those guys and go through the season with them, and then wrap the summer up with the Hokie Club events. Certainly enjoy getting out and meeting the Hokies across the Commonwealth, getting a chance to share some stories with them, and then see the optimism for the season to come. So, questions?
Raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you.
Justin, based on how good Oklahoma State was against the rush last season, that bowl was arguably your best running game of the season. If you look at per carry average and for the entire team, and also what Deshaun did. What you observed in that game, does that encourage you for this season going forward and improving your overall running game? Because you had struggled before then.
Sure. Well, I think the first thing is, on an individual basis, it encourages me about Deshaun. And certainly that wasn't the only game that he played in. I mean, he provided a spark at times throughout the year, but I'm really excited about his development from a physical standpoint to a mental and emotional and leadership role. Really been pleased with him, so it excites me about him moving forward. It was nice to have Stephen Peoples. I think he's really been effective and efficient when he's been in there. We just went through a large part of the season without him last year, and I think it's going to be important that we do a good job managing him through camp, because of the type of body type he is and this type of energy he exerts on every single play. We'll have to do a good job managing him, so hopefully we can have him for a little bit longer. But yeah, I'm excited about the way at times we ran the ball in that game, and hopefully that'll carry into the season.
You've mentioned before, and you mentioned it in Charlotte, the idea that to really run the offense the way you want, you need more receivers. You want to rotate guys in and out. What is that number? Where are you at? And how would you rate overall how you've been able to build that position so far?
Well, I mean, we allocate a certain number of scholarships to each position. Obviously, that can fluctuate. Sometimes you're under at one spot and over at another spot. I don't get carried away with that as I do competent depth. Like, what is our number of players that deserve playing time, that can play at a high level? I'd like that to be much higher than it's been ever since I've been here. And Bucky and Isaiah and Cam are all good players. Very productive, but just our pure number of productive players, in my opinion, hasn't been what it needs to be. I don't know that it'll be what it needs to be this year, but I do believe with all my heart it will be in the coming years up to what it needs what we'd like it to be.
What is that target number, roughly, or range?
I mean, I don't know. I've never put a number on how many guys played. Like we've played 8 or 9 guys at that position, but I've never really put a certain number on it.
The coaches poll just came out today, and you're 17th. I know you're a voter in that, and if I remember right, last year you did not put your team in the initial poll, saying that you wanted your guys to earn it. Did you put the Hokies in it this year?
No.
Same reason, or?
I don't know. I just knew I'd be asked about it, so I thought I would not put them in there. I don't know. I mean, who knows? It's a preseason poll. I don't know how good any of those teams are going to be. So I picked the ones I think that are the best, and I put them on there. So, yeah, I mean, I think we should earn our way into that, as I think everybody should. I don't think there should be a preseason poll. We should take the poll after week 4, and then we'll figure out after the first 4 weeks who are the best teams, kind of like they do the committee. But so I don't put much stock in it, good or bad. I'm not trying to denigrate the people that run the poll. I do take my time and actually fill it out, but I don't, whether we're in it or not is in the preseason has no real bearing on our focus.
Coach, if I remember correctly, you said something in Charlotte that indicated you feel good about the offensive line. Is that correct? And if so, what makes you feel that way, and what do you have to say about those guys?
Well, I think we have some really talented young guys coming in there to compete for playing time. We have 3 seniors, and then we've from what I've seen, we have a handful of young, really talented kids. Between Lasitas, Smith, Silas Danzy, I think those 2 guys are pretty talented. There's another couple other guys that I think have a chance to be pretty special. No, they're all young, but I like that mix because I think they have 3 really good examples in our older players. When you look at our older guys and how they've worked and what they've been through and adversity they fought through, they serve as pretty good examples to some of those young guys.
Do you feel like you're building good depth at all the positions, or is there a particular position you'd like to shore up?
We're in the process of doing that. We certainly have some places we're better than others. I think it's never just a flat line. There's always unexpected things that come up that affect you one way or the other, whether it's you have some unexpected attrition. You just don't ever know where it's going to be. Guys may turn pro or may want something else or may graduate and look somewhere else. But those things just are part of today's day and age. But you never know. They're hard to plan for because you're not sure where they're going to occur, which affects some of that. But we're in the process of doing that. I feel good about where we're going in terms of building that quality depth.
Justin, I think when you read national writers and they talk about the attrition this year on defense, they all say, well, they have Bud. And I think even more importantly, when you talk to your players, they say, we have Bud. Even Josh and Charlotte mentioned, they have Bud. What do you think, from an internal standpoint, just sort of a belief that those guys have in their coordinator might have on them maybe picking up things a little quicker than they might have otherwise?
I hope so. I mean, I certainly don't think it can hurt. I know that, and I know everybody knows this and our kids know this, but Bud's not going to make any tackles out there. He's going to line them up and he's going to coach them up. He's going to get them in the right position, but ultimately they're going to have to take ownership of what they're doing. It's the same in special teams. It's the same on offense. But I do like that they have that belief in what's going on. I mean, that's certainly a good thing. And, he's been through situations like this before. He's been through seasons when we graduated large numbers of guys on the defensive side of the ball. And you got to come back and get ready to go the next year. And as a staff, we'll get them coached up and get them prepared and get them ready to go. But I guess my short answer would be I think that's a good thing. The belief in what we're doing, whether it's our defensive coordinator or our off-season program, whatever it is, but believing that it works is half the battle.
You like your line, you like your running backs. as Aaron alluded to, it's a very inexperienced defense. Could that running game, could that offense take some of the load off your defense, especially early, just by doing what you did in Charlottesville and milking clock?
Well, they could. No, I just don't know if we will. It would be nice. That I guess I should say that's how you figure out how to win games. Like last year, I got a deal from a scouting report from that had some of my quotes in it from one of the seasons or from one of the games last season. It was me talking about, and I was in the middle of the year. I don't ever remember saying it, but it was in the middle of the year. And I was talking about, listen, this is how we're going to have to win games. We're going to have to play great defense, really solid on special teams, try and be opportunistic on offense, and find a way to win as many games as we can. That was what we had to do. What the MO for this team will be, I'm not sure yet. Obviously, you can infer that there's a few guys coming back on, more guys coming back on offense than on defense. That doesn't necessarily guarantee that's the way it's going to have to go, but that's part of us trying to evaluate camp and games and trying to figure out exactly what it's going to take for us to find a way to pull it off. You go through seasons where you go for it on fourth down a lot more than you normally would because you're better or worse on the other side of the ball. You go through seasons where you onside kick or you fake punts or whatever it is to give yourself a chance to win because you have different strengths and weaknesses. And to me, that's the fun part of it all, is figuring it out. What I can't do is prejudge it. I think you can have an idea of what it might look like, but then you've got to look at it with open eyes and try and evaluate it while you're going through practice and going through the season.
You mentioned Caleb Farley when we were in Charlotte as a guy who could maybe add something in the return game. Considering what he's got in front of him, maybe at corner, how do you balance that as a coach? Kind of, you want him obviously to, I assume, focus at corner, but he could have an impact elsewhere. How do you?
Well, that's not a big deal. During special teams period, we're not practicing defense anyway. So we have 5 minutes of kickoff return. He's either going to be taking kickoff return reps or standing on the sideline. So we are cognizant of too much work on special teams in terms of being on too many of the teams or asking too much of them to do it all and so on and so forth. But in terms of, I'm not concerned about overloading Caleb, whether he is or isn't our return man, just based on that. He certainly will have a challenge to adapt to playing corner, absolutely.
You have a quarterback returning who started last year for the first time since you've been here. Do you change how you approach reps early in camp, or is it a deal where you're going to split it evenly among guys and pare it down over time?
Brad and I usually talk about that, and we haven't talked about it yet, to be honest with you. We'll get in. We'll figure it out. I'll take his input in, and we'll make a decision. But I know we're just a couple days away, but we haven't. Brad and I haven't had that discussion yet.
Can you speak at all about what happened with Cam Good? And did you meet with him, talk with him, and how did some of that unfold?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into any detail about that. I mean, we wish Cam the best and want him to do well. That's why we gave him a release to really anywhere that he wants to go, and we'll be happy to support him.
And to follow up on that, it was a blanket release. He can go anywhere. Is that part of your philosophy? I mean, if somebody wants to leave, or is it case by case? How do you look at those?
We do them all on case by case. I mean, I just think that's the best way to do all of that stuff, and so that's what we tried to do.
Anybody else for Coach? All right, thank you, Coach. Well,
You bet.
Foster coming up next.
Yes. Give me 1 second.
I'm not going to tell you when I'm ready.
It will be long for you.
Oh, yeah. Especially since the Orioles are involved in every single one of those. I didn't look your tweet. Congratulations, the Orioles missed playoffs. Yeah.
And they went out.
Playing a little small.
That's inconsistent at worst. He's starting to give me the vibe of AJ Burnett, where he would have a game where he could lose 2 starts at once because he pitched so badly that he could shoot the bullpen for the next day.
Really, they only need him to go 3 innings.
That's true.
You get to the lineup.
That's right.
This is our guy.
Good to see everybody. I'll let you guys just kick it off. I don't have anything to say other than I'm excited to be here.
Andy.
You had a bunch of youth at the cornerback spots and guys in and out of the spring. Where do you start out this August? Like, who are you kind of looking at the first team spots or
you know, we're going to be, it's going to sound like a broken record, let me say this, at a lot of positions as far as the youth. I do believe this. I feel like we really have some talented guys. At a lot of spots, we just don't have the experience maybe that we've had, particularly in the past, our most recent past. But I really like this group of kids. You know, where we start out, I think Bryce Watts had a great spring, and I feel real good about him. I thought Javon Quillen was maybe one of our most improved players through the spring. I really like Jermaine Waller, who came in early. I think he's got a chance to be really, really special. You know, getting Caleb Farley back and him being healthy and watching him run, I'm really excited about him. Obviously, he worked with us a spring a year ago, and I just like his skill set and his length and capabilities. And then I've been really impressed with this freshman class, particularly in the back end. You've got DJ Crossan, who was obviously in the spring. We're actually going to move him to corner from safety spot. Nadir Thompson, I'm extremely impressed with and excited about him. And then Armani Chapman, a kid from the 757 area. Those guys, to me, stick out. And then Shamari Connor's another guy. We've got him working at our rover spot. But those young guys coming in, the ones prior to Shamari, I think, are going to get a good evaluation. I think we've got a pretty good evaluation, at least of their skill set now, putting on the pads and, you know, how they perform in those scenarios, in true game-like scenarios we'll find out. But that's where we're starting. We're going to find out what some of these guys' strengths are, and, you know, what's their liabilities or weaknesses, so to speak, and build on those and find out, who can play here early, and then we'll go with that. It's going to be important for us to find like a nickel guy or a dime guy per se in our 30 package. I mean, that's been a topic of discussion, trying to find, and it'll probably come out of that pool of young guys. But that's how impressed I've been with that. But that's what we have, and but I'm excited about what these kids will bring to the table athletically, and then they seem to be quick learners and have a pretty good football IQ, so I'm excited about that.
Do you have first-team guys right now, or just?
Well, I would say it would be Bryce and Quillen right now, going into camp day one. But the good thing and a healthy thing about having a good program is when you can have some depth, and having depth. I want quality depth, but having competition's healthy. And that's going to push guys to be the best they can be, and that's what we're going to find out, who can live up to the expectations and perform consistently well on a consistent basis.
Depending on which metric you use, either by returning starters or career starts returning, this is either your youngest defense since 2010 or 2008. Those two seasons turned out pretty well for Virginia Tech. How does it impact how you approach camp, how you teach, how quickly you install?
Yeah, that's a good question, and this might be the most we've had to replace. Maybe I don't go back to that, but I know after the national championship season, we had to replace 9 starters, I think, in the 2000 season, and obviously we have to replace 8 off of this group, but we're not going to change. We've really, this summer, we have not been involved in skills and drills as a staff per se. We have installed, basically, or put in their locker our installation from spring practice, and we've really moved forward. Instead of going back to day one, we really kind of threw in a lot of our blitz package early, because they did a little bit of group work together, and we emphasized the offense. We wanted to emphasize blitz pickup, and we wanted to just get everything taught and thrown at our kids, kind of overload them a little bit, but just do it over and over and over again. We actually are going to start, and I said this to Coach Fuente and the staff, we're actually going to throw a little bit more at our guys on day one earlier than we ever have, and I think that's a credit to the kids we have here. I think it goes back to the football IQ of some of these young freshmen, and so we're gonna throw a lot at them early, and then just kind of do it over and over and over and over and over again, and so we're not going to slow down. I want them to come up to our level, and for us to compete at the level we expect our football team to, they need to step up to that level, and we're going to be we're not. That doesn't mean we're going to pay attention to little things. We're going to do that. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of teaching, a lot of sharpening the tools in their toolbox, so to speak, as far as technique fundamentals, those type of things, the skills and things that their position demands. We'll be sharpening those every day. But at the same time, we're gonna throw our package at them, because I think if we can be very multiple in how I like to do things, then that's going to give us a chance. But will there be some growing pains? I'm sure they may be, but at the same time, we've already talked to the group of kids that they know they got to step up to our level. We're not going to slow down for them, but it's an eager group. It's a willing group. I've been impressed with their football IQ and their intelligence and their willingness to learn and pick it up, and so that's been encouraging.
When spring ended, you had kind of an evaluation on your linebackers, but obviously they didn't have to be game ready at the end of spring. How did you feel about them at the end of spring? How much work did they have left, and how locked in are you with those two guys versus there being some competition here?
Well, I felt good. I feel good about my room. I feel as good about my room as I have in a long, long time, as far as the quality of young men that are in that room. We will be as green as I've ever been, though. Starting out, I mean, you have one guy that played 4 or 5 snaps on defense, and and Rayshard Ashby, that being Dylan Rivers, and then Rayshard Ashby playing primarily just starting on special teams, as did Dylan. But then after that, there's no experience, and experience is the best teacher. But I really like these guys. Rayshard has really probably solidified himself. I thought he probably had the best spring of everybody, the most consistent spring of everybody. I thought Dylan played really well the last week and a half. I think he was trying to do everything exact, and I just wanted him to pin his ears back and play. I really like the battle that we're going to have at that spot with Jalen Griffin and also Alan Tisdale. He showed some really did some really good things, showed some good signs of athleticism that we like at that backer position. So that's not a locked-in deal per se. There's still, those are three really good football players, I think. At Mike, I said Rayshard had probably the most consistent and best spring of everybody, but I have been extremely impressed with Dax Hollyfield. He is, we'll put the pads on, but if he hits like I know he's going to and be the type of guy, the way he's picked things up, he's everything that we thought he was going to be. Just been really impressive how quickly he's learned and what he does out on the field, watching 7-on-7 and some of the team stuff. But then behind him, you got Ricardo Kearney. Rico's had a great summer. I really like what he's about. And then Keyshawn Artis is another guy that I've really been impressed with in a month's time. So those two freshmen I've been really, really impressed with, like I have with the DBs. They've been here a month. I thought those guys have really picked things up. And so there's going to be competition. I'm going to find out. We got to find out, and that's what I told Fu. There's some question marks there. And we're going to have to find out early and make some decisions early and go with it.
Where does linebacker fall in the sort of rank of easy or harder to play as a true freshman?
Well, I think you have to be a complete football player. You obviously have to know your gap fits, but you have to know the front as far as where they're fitting to scrape off of things. You got to be good in the passing game and understand the variety and the complexity of the coverages that we do. So I think it's probably the hardest position to play, mentally as well as physically. When it's all said and done. But like I said, I've been impressed with this group of kids and what they're, particularly the young group. I think they've been some really quick learners. But like I said, I've got a great room. They're smart. They're sharp. They're willing to please. They want to be good, and that's exciting.
Hey, Bud, it seems like anytime something happens this offseason to the defense, the bright side is, well, we've still got Bud. We've got Bud. We got Bud. How did you process everything that went down this offseason? Obviously there's a lot of faith placed in you, but is there also, I'm sure there's times where you're like, man, this sucks too.
Was I happy with a couple things that happened? No, but those are things that are out of our control. And really what we can focus on is the guys we have in our program. They want to be successful, and that's really what we're focusing on. That's all we can control. Obviously, you lose some guys in the draft. You lose some guys for whatever reason we were counting on. But that's all part of it. It's just it doesn't happen here. It happens everywhere. But what we can do. I appreciate the guys having confidence in me. I know this. I've got a great staff around me, and we'll be professional and do a great job of teaching and coaching and demanding. And I think we've got a willing group of kids that want to be coached, that want to please, that want to work. They understand what it takes to be successful. Obviously, we got to help some of them continue on that path and work that way. But we can only control what we have and what's in front of us, and that's what we'll do.
One more, Andy.
Your starting D-line seems pretty set. How do you feel about the backups, especially at tackle, in the wake of the Cam Good news?
Yeah,
Can slide between end and tackle?
Yeah, well, I don't know. We're right now in the perfect world. Vinny Mahota would take over Timmy's spot, and he's had a great off season. Obviously, he's going to be turned loose probably the second week fully and of camp. Ricky is obviously our bell cow, and just really proud of what he's all about and who he is and how he handles things. We gave him the lunch pail to kind of kick this thing off for us. I really think Xavier Burks had a great summer and has put himself in position to play a significant role for us. Jared Hewitt's another guy that just had a really good spring, had an outstanding summer, and he's really developing into some leadership roles and that kind of characteristics and qualities you're looking for in that. Then after that, the next couple spots will be by committee. We're counting on Darius Fullwood. Hopefully he had a good summer, but it's time for him to step up and play for us. A guy, Clay Dean, can come in and fight and scratch and claw, and sometimes you need that guy in that position. And we're hoping Robert Porcher will be a guy that will kind of step up and be the guy that we think he can be. But he's been limited, particularly with having shoulder surgery, with his upper body strength and things of that nature. So, but that's who we have right there. Now, is there a guy from the defensive end spot that could come in? I don't know. You got Jimmy Taylor, who's still working at defensive tackle. There's a guy, Zion DeBose. We talked about that with Zion, but I'd like to just keep him at defensive end. And, he's a play away from being maybe the next guy for us at that spot. But obviously we need a second line of defensive tackles too, because that's a position that you can get nicked up really quick. And those when we're good inside, and that gives us a chance to be pretty physical and control the line of scrimmage throughout the year. So that's critical for us.
Bud, could Dax play both Mike and backer, or are there any other linebackers that you could cross-train?
Right now I'm just going to say Dax might be the guy that could do that. He is, have you guys followed his recruiting and just followed who the guy is? He's a gym rat. He's an exceptionally high IQ guy. If he's probably down in the weight room now or watching film right now or bugging Jack Tyler to meet with him right now, and he wants to know everything, and he's working his way to doing that. It's just that's his mindset. But he's really, I've been impressed with him, his mental makeup and how he's handled things and how he's picked things up at the Mike position. And we've talked about, and he is learning the backer spot a little bit. Is he the backer athlete that you like sometimes? Maybe not, maybe more in that Bruce Taylor, because he's 250 pounds, 248 pounds. Movement-wise, he might be a little more fluid than Bruce, but he could be a guy because I would trust him, and I know he would play his tail off, but he could potentially be that guy. But I think it makes a statement. I'm going to challenge those other guys to, be a lot like Dax from the standpoint of being able to cross over just a little bit. Because the Mike and backer are similar in some ways, but they're very different in a lot of ways too. So that's a unique spot for us.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thank you all. Good seeing you guys. Hope you all had a great summer.
So Justin said you won't make a single you guys have talked before about to really run the offense the way you want, you need a lot of receivers. Justin wants to, you want to rotate in a lot of receivers. How would you evaluate how that position's been built in the time you're here? How close are you to that goal? How would you rate that?
We're getting better. We're not where we need to be. Got some really good experience last year with some young guys, and are going to have a new wave of young guys that need that experience, along with some of those guys that got some last year. So we're getting closer. Definitely not where we need to be, but it's been a really good summer. We got some of those guys getting healthy that didn't get to do much in the spring and are working their way back in this summer. That we've got to get healthy, get them back in the mix. So that's going to be a key component for us offensively, to be able to take a big stride at that position this year.
How many guys do you have that right now you trust kind of game ready? And what is there a target number in your mind of I'd like 8, I'd like 9, I'd like 10?
Yeah, for me, trying to get as close as you can to that 8 mark would be beautiful. We've the guys that played last year, the guys that come to my mind, Kuma, I think took a step last year. As a guy that we can trust to get in there and make plays. He made some plays, some plays down the field on 50-50 balls, and was consistently, as the season went along, a guy that was there for us. Hezekiah Grimsley had a really good finish to a year as a freshman, kind of stepped in that slot position that we needed. And so he's had a great offseason and needed one. He played as a true freshman, but physically probably wasn't ready to. So hopefully that'll make a big difference for him. Sean Savoy got some experience. Has got to keep coming on, getting better, but he's got some game time under his belt. Phil Patterson really finished the year well and has had a good off season, and he's a guy that I think can take that next step that we can really count on. And then you got a couple more guys that are just kind of unknown, unproven that we're excited about, though.
Brad, sticking with the receivers, one of the guys I'm sure you were referring to, the unknown guys. Hazleton is a guy we've heard an awful lot about, but most of us have yet to see. What does he add for you? Is he completely healthy at this point, and what's his strength?
He's a big kid. He's a really big kid. Had a really good freshman year as a true freshman at Ball State. So we know he's played at this level. We know we've seen some of that. We got to see a little bit of it last year in fall camp, but most of it was our feedback from the defensive coaches with him on scout team, and I think everybody's really excited about him, and he's still got to go out and prove it, but he's getting close. We certainly expect him to be there for us in the fall camp.
When you say he's getting close, are you referring to an injury situation, or is he healthy?
Yeah, he didn't go through spring practice, right, as you guys know. So we're always easing those guys back in, and Mike and the staff got a great plan for that, and so we expect him for the first game, and expecting him to step in and play a role for us.
Brad, as you reviewed the Oklahoma State game, what did you think made you guys so effective running the ball more so than you had in previous games, and are the pieces in place for that to translate to 2018?
Yeah, I'm excited about our run game. Stephen Peoples has really kind of got all the tools you want for a back. His power, speed, he's tough. He just couldn't stay healthy, completely healthy all year. But certainly getting him back, kind of feeling better for the bowl game, I think helped. When you have a combination of guys you can roll through there and keep those guys fresh, it makes a big difference. But I think probably our game plan to run the ball, try to keep their offense off the field a little bit, and schematically that's what kind of fit the game plan also, was probably a combination of all those things.
You have a starting quarterback coming back for the first time since you've been here. We talked to Josh down in Charlotte. It sounds like it was a productive offseason from him. Where do you want to see him improve most when he's back here?
Well, he's got to make the routine plays. There were some big plays throughout the season that he can make, and he didn't make them all. He made some. He made his share of plays, but there was too many big plays in the pass game that were left out there unmade, and he knows it. And I think he took a step this spring, but that's the biggest thing for him. All the the intangibles. He's incredibly intelligent, running the offense, making good decisions, taking care of the ball. Those things that give us a chance to win every week. He had a heck of a year, especially for a freshman. So, I'm excited about him and the other guys, and they all have to continue to improve. And there's certainly competition and young talent. So, expecting a good fall camp from that position.
Brad, it was kind of low leverage situations, but Coleman Fox last year when he got in, he showed some flashes. Is there an avenue? I know he's kind of buried on the depth chart, but is there an avenue for him to have a more prominent role in the offense this year?
Well, he's a guy that can do a number of different things, and so this spring getting him out of the backfield some to kind of expand his abilities and what he can do to try to find a little bit more of a role for him. He's a guy that we trust, that we know what we're going to get out of him, and he's always going to be there. And as he continues to get bigger and stronger, I think he's one of those guys that just next thing you know, he's in there and he's making some plays.
I'm sure you heard or are aware of Justin's comments after the spring game about Josh. Maybe mirrored your thoughts also about falling in love with the process the rest of the spring from that point in this offseason. Was that also your thought process regarding Josh, and what does that mean to you, falling in love with the process?
Oh, for Josh is an extremely intelligent kid, and so his ability to be 2 steps ahead of everybody else at that position is right there in his grasp. I mean, that's something that he can do that can really help him. And but there has to be time spent knowing what to do and knowing what the defense is going to do, and I think that's what we've tried to push him to do. And he has. I mean, he loves the game and he loves being around it. He's spent more time this summer than anyone I've ever had at quarterback up there on his own throughout spring and summer. So he's, we're just like all of our guys. We're trying to get the best out of him. We're trying to push him, and we know the ceiling. We know how high he can take that part of his game because of his intelligence level, and so just certainly trying to continue to push him.
A couple more.
We've heard always so much about complementary football and doing the things you need to win. When you have so many question marks on the defensive side of the ball, when you meet as a staff, how do you kind of discuss that? Do you talk about, okay, the offense is going to have to make up for things, or do you look at it and say, oh, the defense is going to be fine, we're our own? How do you plan for that, really?
Oh, it's way too early, for those kind of discussions. But certainly once you get going in the season or certain weeks, who you're playing, what they're good at or what they're not good at, those discussions come up. That's what the head coach is there for. And I think last year was a good example. As the season goes on, you realize that you got one of the best defenses in the country, and you're, inexperienced on offense, and you try to play that type of football. And but at this point, way too early, way too many questions. It's about both sides of the ball in all positions, just trying to get as good as they can be, and we'll get it sorted out when it's time to go.
Do you have the pieces if that became the thing this year, was for the offense to need to hold on to the ball, need to control games? Do you feel like you have the pieces for that style of a game plan?
To hold on to the ball?
For long periods of time.
Oh.
As opposed to maybe being explosive and quick.
Yeah, I mean, it still comes back for us about the run game, and we've got to get better at the run game. Whether we have to score 50 points a game or we don't have to score 50 points a game, it still goes back to that fundamental part of playing offense. And so not where we wanted to be last year there and a number of places. So, the process, the formula doesn't really change for us going into this. And we absolutely have the talent to do really whatever we want to do on offense, and we got to get them there. And they've had a great summer and are willing. They are willing and want to be coached and want to be great, and that's where it all starts.
Last one, David.
You mentioned leaving big plays in the passing game out on the field last season. Was there a common thread in those misses? Overthrows, happy feet in the pocket, misreads of the defense, or was it a combination?
It was a combination. Yeah, it was. Josh just missed a couple throws. Protection was there. We got a guy open and maybe just overthrew it just a little bit or underthrew it or whatever. He missed a few. we dropped a few. Just our technique at times down the field and how we're trying to leverage the defensive backs to create more space at the end of that play. It was definitely a combination of all those things.
All right, thank you,
All right,
Coach.
thanks, guys.
Student athletes coming up next. Raise your hand, we'll get you a mic.
Coaches were in here and they said they were really happy with the way you finished the season, with the off season you've had. Why is that? What did you do, and do you sense it? Do you know that, hey, things are going well, you're showing out a little bit? What was your sense of how you're performing?
This off season has been big for me, and the rest of the team came out there and felt like we approached it differently, and the work's been put in.
What was different about the off-season approach?
I would say just overall the maturity level. We all stepped up a little bit more and noticed that it was a job to be done, and it wasn't going to be done just by us sitting around and, you know, just extra stuff. We do extra things and go off of that.
Since Damon Hazelton's been here, he redshirted during the transfer year. We didn't get to talk to him. He was injured all spring. We didn't get to talk to him. But it seems like every time we talk to you guys, somebody brings him up as being, you know, somebody could do something in this offense. What are your impressions of being around him? What kind of player is he?
Amazing. He's a leader, hard worker. This guy, he came in and he took full advantage of his redshirt year and just put in the work. He's always got a smile on his face. And as far as like the receivers, he pulls receivers, you know, with his energy. So it's like you have no choice but to like follow behind that. He's a good role model.
You say pulls receivers with his energy. How does he do that? Is it just a magnetism he has? Does he have people over to his place and
I would say it's
cook
just
or stuff? I mean, what does he do?
just overall he bonds well with everybody. He you know, he doesn't treat anybody different. Like he's just a good leader overall.
I think this is the first we've seen of the new T-shirts, so tell us about the challengeable and what Coach says that means and all that.
Just being challengeable, it takes grit to be challengeable, and that's something that just goes along with our culture around on this football team. The challengeable on the back is very, very important to us, you know, as far as like our work ethic and everything that we do every day.
Phil, you don't see a lot of college football players named Phil. Do you have it's a fine name, Phil Mickelson and Uncle Phil.
I
but,
like it.
do you have any nicknames, or would you like one?
I don't know. Coach Wiggs calls me Filthy Phil, but back at home I go by Bug. You know, Bug, B-O-O-G, Boogie.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
Just playing like Little League football. I just juke around a lot, Boogie man.
When you have a game like you did to finish the season last year, after struggling with injuries and really not getting going, and you had 2 catches going into that game, I think.
Probably so, yeah.
Do you kind of look at that as is it frustrating to think, oh man, I'm just now getting started and the season's over, or do you think, okay, that's a nice jumping off point to an off season? And how do you sort of mentally process that season with the injuries and then the finish?
I look at it as like things happen for a reason, and the injury set me back, but I always like kept that fire, and it's like that little spark at the end of the season, it really motivated me and carried over into the off season, and now I'm just fired up. Like I just tasted a little bit of that. Now I'm ready to go ball.
You make many catches like you did in the spring game, that one-handed one?
Yes.
Is that a regular thing for you?
I would say I practice that all the time since I was younger, so just
You actually practice just
yeah,
catch with one hand?
all types of scenarios, situations.
Just have somebody throw you terrible passes. How do you work on that?
Me and Dane, we work on that all the time in the indoor. We go in there, we just play around with it, one-hand catch, just things like that, you know, just practicing and stuff like that.
You've had a chance to work against some of these young defensive backs and corners that are going to need to play this year. What do you think of those guys? How much are they improving? What do they do well? What still needs work? And how confident are you in that group?
I'm very confident. I trust in Coach Foster and what he has planned over there. All those guys are hard workers, and they come every day with that competition. So I feel very confident about it.
Anybody in particular for you, like when you go against them, you know it's going to be a good rep or a hard rep or a smack talk filled rep, anything like that?
I know Javon Quillen, he gives me a lot of, we go back and forth a lot in practice. And just competition.
What are his strong suits? What does he do well that maybe makes him tough?
He's just an overall athlete. He's a dog. He brings it every time, I feel like, all the way through the whistle.
Anybody else? All right. Thanks, Phil.
Reggie, Coach Fuente gets a vote in the coaches' top 25 poll. He said he didn't put you guys in it because he thinks you need to earn it. What's your kind of reaction to that mindset or approach?
Same way. I agree with it. We have a lot of young guys, so we don't want them to be geeked up over the top polls and where we're at. Just focus on the first game and, of course, camp that's coming up.
You do have a lot of young guys. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Is it an interesting offseason where it's kind of like you're a mystery, but I imagine you feel pretty good about the guys you have?
I know. It's no mystery. They know Tech is going to be the same no matter who's here, who's just coming in, the young guys, older guys, we all going to play the same.
Is it weird? I mean, last year at this time, you were the new guy in the secondary, the new starter. Now you're the old man just by default because everybody left. Is it strange, and do you have to have a different leadership approach, anything?
I mean, no, not really. It's not anything strange about it. It's just like high school coming in freshman year from middle school. You're the young guy, and then you move on up, and then you got the young guys underneath you. So it's just the same as here, just moving them, making sure they're in the right place, mind straight, and just getting ready for the season.
You mentioned that there's no mystery and everyone knows how Virginia Tech will play defense. How much of that confidence is rooted in Bud Foster?
All of it. It's a tradition. He's ran this defense for many years and had a lot of top guys coming through, going to the league. So I would say his experience is just way out of here, so we're prepared for it.
What do you see out of that other safety spot next year? I guess Khalil and Divine are working there still.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like maybe Divine came out of the spring at the top. We wouldn't know in particular, but it seems like he had a pretty good spring. Is there something that one does better than the other, and do you feel like one of the guys has an edge there?
No, they're both great athletes. Both have the sense on the field. They both can play the position or any position they want on the defensive side. So honestly, it's just good to have both of them there.
On the other side of the ball, one of the things that Coach Fuente and Coach Cornelson want is more receivers to be able to rotate through.
Mm-hmm.
In the time you've been here, are you seeing like more guys in that receiver line that are tough to match up with, or is it still one or two guys and then everybody else is?
Nah, I say we got about a lot of receivers. The whole core, honestly, they all can play. Like I said, the age and how young they are doesn't matter. They prove to us and also the coaches, of course, from being recruited, that they can play at this level. So we're prepared for it and ready for the season to come on.
When you're doing those like one-on-one drills, is there one guy that's a particularly bad matchup or hard matchup or fun matchup for you to cover?
Shoot, all of them, from field down to the tight ends to the slots. They all have their own little swag, so it brings something new to the table every time.
Phil just said his nickname is Filthy Phil. Can you describe him as a player and
Yeah,
what
Bug.
might make him filthy?
He's just a dog. Like he'll attack at anyone. It doesn't matter who you are, how big you are, how small you are. If you're lined up in front of him, it's just get ready, like go for a ride. So yeah, Filthy Phil's about right.
Do you find yourself doing more sort of, I mean, I know you leave the coaching to the coaches, but do you find yourself giving more advice this year than speaking up and doing things like that than you would have obviously last year when, as Andy said, you were sort of in a position to try to win a job and you had a stranglehold on it, seems like, throughout August, but I can't imagine you were terribly vocal at that point. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you vocal no matter like who's here or how long you've been there, if you're battling or not. If you're on the field, you got to be vocal and talk. So I would say it's about the same, just maybe a little bit more talking to the young guys so they'll understand like when there's motions and all that kind of stuff going on, how to move and where your assignment is. So it's pretty much the same, yeah.
Does that kind of just come with the territory, with your position, to have to be a talker?
Yeah, you got to speak on everything. Linebackers, D linemen, corners, all that.
Did there get to be a point in the offseason, what with Jeremy's injury and then the unscheduled departures of Adonis and Mook, where you just thought, what else can go wrong?
Yeah, of course. We lost a lot of big guys, but at the same time, we just got to get prepared with the younger guys that are here, and we got to get ready for the season. But, yeah, that was a big chunk that we lost, but we'll get right.
Did you have a chance at all to work out with Cam Good when he was here, and were you surprised at kind of how short a time he spent at Virginia Tech?
I did not get the chance to work out with him, but, I mean, life goes on. You just have to move on and get ready for the season. He's going to be in a better place. I know he would have probably wanted to stay here, but he just has to do his thing. And I'm going to wish him the best of luck for all that.
All right. Thank you. Chris Cunningham coming up next. All right. Questions for Chris Cunningham?
You certainly have sort of a wealth of guys at tight end right now.
Mhm.
How do you view that room, being a year older, being a year more experienced, and it seems like there's sort of a diversity of skill sets there too?
I feel great about the room. It's a lot bigger than what it used to be. It used to be just me, people, Sam Rogers, and Xavier Burke when it all started. But now we have a little bit of depth at H and at Y. This camp, I think we'll be able to see, how well our roles will play, I guess, together out there on the field. know, a lot of us can play multiple positions. Some of us are limited. But this camp, I think, you know, we'll be able to see who can play what, basically. Yeah.
Kind of a weird question, but if you go back from your first days on campus to now, how much more do you get when you watch film? Like, how much better do you understand? Do you know what you're looking for? How much more do you get out of it if you remember kind of what it was like when you were a freshman and trying to watch film?
I see the game a lot better now. It's easier to look at and read coverages now. I don't know. It's just crazy because I know when I first came in, everything just seemed like to come so fast and it just seemed like difficult. But now it's just like the back of my hand. I can read coverages. I can tell you what they're about to do, if they're gonna blitz, the fronts and things like that. So it's a lot easier now that I've been on campus for a couple years.
When you start out and you're watching the film, are you a rewind and pause, or do you just kind of let it go and then when the rep ends, you're like, I'm not sure what I just saw? What was it like?
Normally, how I watch film, I just go through each play one time, just to go through the whole game, and then I'll just go back and then I'll rewind, and I could watch it for a few hours, But it's a lot easier to watch it now than what it used to be a couple years ago. So.
Questions for Chris?
As you think back to the bowl against Oklahoma State, what made you guys so effective, more effective than you had been during the regular season, running the ball, and can that be replicated this upcoming season?
It can definitely be replicated this upcoming season. I think it clicked more in the bowl game due to the fact that we put more emphasis on it. I think we can do the same thing throughout the entire season. It's just that we have to take care of the ball and make sure we're all clicking and all on the same page. So.
What do you see from the development of Josh Jackson and the role he was in last year to where he is now? What have you seen?
Just a lot of maturity and growth. Josh he's not the biggest vocal leader, but he leads more by his actions. In this offseason, he's putting in a lot of work, on his own time and, out there with us every day, of course. But just maturity, I think, with him being his third year under, the offense and this new system, I think we'll really get going this season.
What do you see from James Mitchell so far?
I see a guy. He's a big guy. That's what I see. I see more of a basketball player right now. We're getting ready to go into camp, so I'll be able to see more of him. He can run a little bit, though, so.
Questions for Chris?
I know obviously you're going to be excited to play whoever it is to start, but to have a team like Florida State as the opener, does that grab your attention a little more in the off season, to have an opponent like that kind of looming?
Not really. I mean, it does grab my attention knowing that they're the first opponent, but at the same time, we're known for playing on big stages in the first game, so it's nothing new. Preparation isn't anything different. We got camp coming up, and then we still have, game prep still going on. So we got a little bit of time, but it's almost here. So
I know you guys are so, go 1-0 this week, and but when you think about opening with an ACC game, does that give it more importance to your goals for the season because it is a conference game, and I know usually even your big games are non-conference in the opener?
I think every game is a big game. Our motto and what we've been standing on since day one is go 1-0. So I think with Florida State being the first opponent, that's who we're focusing on. It is a big game, regardless if it's ACC or not. It's the first game. We want to come out strong and open the season strong. So I don't think it's really too much into it. Just have to go out there and prepare, keep level-headed, and not worry about what's being put out. Just go in there and just work, and we'll be fine.
Coach Fuente has said he said coming out of the spring that this team wasn't challengeable enough, but yet now he thinks that it is. What changed, and how did it change?
The older guys just had to step up, and I think that's what changed. The younger guys had to really understand that we're here to work, not here to play around and mess around. We're here to win championships and not be mediocre and go 6-6. And all it takes is getting with the program, just putting, stepping all the way in and not, half stepping or just one foot in, one foot out. You have to, fully buy in. I think that's what the problem was at first. You got a lot of younger guys and stuff like that coming in that didn't know you know, how we do things around here. And I think as older guys, we had to step up as leaders and really show them instead of, you know, by mouth, but really by action. So that's all it really took.
So a prime time Labor Day game against FSU doesn't mean a little bit extra for a dude from Florida?
I mean, it does. Florida State didn't really recruit me out of high school. I guess it kind of gives me a different edge when I think about Florida State. I got a lot of friends and family that grew up Florida State fans, but I mean, I see it as another game to get better, another game to go 1-0 and just stay level-headed and just know with that we have to go out there and do our jobs and execute.
Did you also, I remember we were talking to you about this last year too, did Miami also not recruit you much? Was that, or was it just Florida State?
It was Miami. Miami actually came to my school and talked to me. Florida State didn't really do too much. They just sent out their normal recruiting letters. So, yeah.
Coach Fonte told us that, you know, he's got that vote in the coaches' top 25 poll, but he didn't put you guys in. He said he thinks you need to earn it. As a player, kind of, what's your reaction, and do you like that sort of mind game mental approach?
I do, actually. Sort of like, you know, you kind of have to get out the mud, kind of go get it, you know, the hard way, you know, earn everything. That's how I like to see it. That's how, you know, that's how I was brought up. And that's how I like to go after things. Now that I'm older, and I really thought about it the past couple of months. I don't like anything handed to me. I don't care how easy it is. I rather work for it because the story is way more better when you work for it than when it's handed to you. So I'd rather go out there and work for it and, you know, put in the time, effort, you know, and sweat, you know, to get the results instead of having somebody just hand me something that I can't really say I'm proud about. So.
Chris, based on the size of your tattoos, you have a pretty high pain tolerance, I guess. What's your favorite tattoo that you've got, and how long did it take to get the Jacksonville one and the one on your leg there?
Tattoos, I got them when I was younger. I don't know. I don't really have a favorite tattoo. I haven't really thought about them like that. I like tattoos a lot. I mean, it didn't take that long. It took like maybe like 7-8 hours. I did it in 2 separate sessions. So the one on my leg, I got that after my, I think, 19th birthday. So I mean, tattoos, I like the pain of it. It's not like anything that's crazy. It's just, I don't know, it's just weird. It's a weird feeling. I don't know how to really explain it. I feel like you have to you know, get a tattoo to really understand what you know.
Do they have special significance to you?
Well, this one here is Corinthians 10:13. I got this because I was going through a little bit of, you know, temptations. It's a verse about temptation. I was going through a lot of temptation at the time. At first, I was going to finish up my leg. I have Batman on the back, and I was going to do a Gotham City theme on my entire leg, but didn't really come around, you know, have time for it. So, yeah, someday.
Anybody else for Chris? All right. Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you. Thank you.
All right.